Magic is a super flavorful game, and when WotC hits you with that perfectly flavored card, that's the good stuff right there. There are plenty of examples of these flavor masterpieces. Raging River basically makes a river appear on the battlefield. Gingerbrute is a really fast cookie that you can eat, and Form of the Dragon makes you turn into a dragon. All of these cards function as game pieces, but they also tell a story and work the way that their name and art make you think they should. And that's what peak flavor is all about. But with so many cards in the game, a lot of times the flavor kind of falls apart. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. Here are my 5 favorite flavor fails in Commander combos. But before we get to that, make sure to like and subscribe or check out my Patreon. It really helps a lot. Now without further ado, let's get started. First off, we have Dark Depths with Thespian Stage. Dark Depths is a land that enters with 10 ice counters on it, and you can pay 30 total mana to get all of the ice counters off of it and make a 20/20 flying, indestructible tentacle monster. Thespian Stage is a land that can turn into copies of other lands. So the combo is you turn your Thespian Stage into a copy of Dark Depths, and then you immediately get the 20/20 because your Thespian Stage doesn't have any ice counters on it. This is a classic combo that has seen play across many formats, but let's take a sec to look at the flavor of what's actually happening here. The flavor for Dark Depths makes sense. It's a giant ice hole, and once you get rid of all the ice, a big sleeping monster wakes up and comes out of it. Thespian Stage also kind of makes sense by itself. It shows some actors who are putting on a play, so by pretending to be somewhere else, they can effectively make their stage into a copy of any other place. But now let's look at the full combo. The flavor of this combo is that you have some actors, and the actors start pretending to be in a giant ice cavern. They do such a good job acting that a giant, hibernating tentacle monster just starts existing beneath the stage. Then, since it's not actually cold there, the monster wakes up, destroys the stage, and flies away. Now that deserves an Oscar. Next up, we're looking at Atla Palani Nest Tender. This commander can make egg tokens, and whenever one of your eggs dies, she lets you put the top creature of your deck onto the battlefield for free. Now the flavor of this card is pretty obvious. You have this egg lady who watches eggs, and then the eggs hatch into random stuff. But this card leaves me with so many questions. Like, first of all, where are these eggs coming from? Is she just finding more and more eggs? She's supposed to be tending the nest, so I imagine that she can't be going around looking for more eggs. Or don't tell me she's laying the eggs. And almost none of the things that come out of the eggs make any sense. Like, sure, if you get a dinosaur or a bird or even a fish, then like, okay, that's kind of plausible. But you could get things like a meerkat, a horse, an old Asian man on a horse, an Eldrazi, Chandra's mom and her dad, a ghost, a boat, a ghost boat, a wall made of swords, or perhaps even, weirdest of all, another egg. None of these things have any business coming out of an egg. Next up, we have Girapur Ether Grid. This enchantment lets you tap 2 of your artifacts to deal 1 damage to something. Now this seems simple enough. I'll be upfront and say that I know almost nothing about magic lore, but as far as I can tell, Ether seems like it's basically just magical electricity. I don't know if that's accurate, but I'm gonna say it is. So you tap 2 of your artifact-looking machine thingies, and they channel a little bolt of lightning to go out and zap something for 1 damage. Now this makes sense with a lot of artifacts. Anything made of metal could probably channel some ether, and artifacts that seem kind of magic-y could maybe do it also. But if you're playing Girapur Ether Grid in your deck, then there's a good chance you're using artifact tokens to deal damage. Artifact tokens like a feather, a rock, or a banana. You're telling me that I can kill an elf by rotating 2 bananas, or destroy a colossal elder dinosaur by putting 24 bananas in a circle around it. Bananas are not nearly that lethal.
Oh, these are pretty cool bananas.
Next up is everybody's favorite fast mana Dockside Extortionist. This guy makes a treasure for each of your opponent's artifacts and enchantments when he ETBs. Now on the surface, this card makes sense. He's probably a representative of some goblin pirate gang and he hangs out by the docks and says stuff like, "That's a nice boat you got there. It'd be a real shame if something happened to it." And then people pay him some treasure. His flavor text makes this pretty clear, a small price to keep such pretty things safe. But there is one huge problem with this. Dockside Extortionist triggers off of your opponent's treasures. So just to be clear, that means that this goblin goes up to people and says, "That's a nice box of gold you have there. If you pay me a box of gold, then I'll make sure nothing happens to your box of gold." And then people just give him a box of gold, I guess. That's not even extortion, that's just confusing theft. And lastly, we have a janky mono-white combo with Solemnity and 9 lives. 9 lives gets a counter every time we would take damage, and after 9 counters, it makes us lose the game. So the flavor here is obviously that this cat has 8 previous avatar lives that make him really hard to kill. And then we have Solemnity. Now I don't really quite understand the flavor of this card, but I guess Oketra died and everyone's feeling as solemn as a simulacrum, so maybe they're all participating in a moment of silence? Maybe putting counters on stuff represents work, so people are taking a day of rest to honor this fallen god? Probably something like that. I think the name here is our biggest clue. People are feeling solemn, so they don't have any time to go around putting counters on stuff. Now when we combine these two cards together, we basically become invincible to damage, because our 9 lives never gets counters. But what exactly is the flavor of that supposed to be? You turn yourself into a cat with extra lives, and then every time someone hits you, you don't die and reincarnate to your next life because you're too sad. You're literally too sad to bother with dying. That has to be the most metal thing I've ever heard. So there you have it. Those are my 5 favorite flavor fail combos in EDH. Can you think of any more combos that don't really make any sense when you think about them too much? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Tofu out.